going today on BKRsport? It is really hot today. It is really damn well hot today. So if you can hear like cars driving outside or you can just hear things in the background, I'm sorry. I've got to have my door and window open. I've got a fan on right now, but it's still 33 odd degrees, right? So do forgive the background noises and whatnot if they even come. Usually I'm quite loud so you can't actually hear them. But today, guys, we're going to be talking about the Newcastle Knights. And if I think that they can kind of continue on from last year and really kind of continue to surprise, really, is what I would say there. And that's not meaning to disrespect the Knights by any means, but as you'll find in this video, they obviously are a surprise packet towards the back end of last year. You know, they really came home strongly. I can't remember how many games they won, but it was a lot of games in a row. It was like 9 to 10 games in a row that got them into the 8, and then, you know, obviously they did struggle against the Warriors, when they went over to New Zealand to take them on, which was always probably going to happen there, but did obviously get through to the second week of finals, where it was a bit of a surprise. It was a massive surprise and really exciting. And I think that the most devout of Newcastle Knights fans do understand that, you know, and probably predicted them quite low. I know I predicted them quite low last year, and pretty much everybody did, because they just don't, on paper, have a team that really looks like it's going to be a world beater. It doesn't look like a team that can go on as much of a run as they did last year, but they did. And that's the beauty of Newcastle, man. That's the beauty of what Newcastle has always represented. That real kind of tough, gritty mindset that does have that pace and does have that attack, but at the end of the day, they're working class, right? They really love to get amongst it. And that's what Tyson Gamble did say when obviously he was in that little bit of a tit for tat with Willie Mason last season, when Willie Mason came out and said their spine is basically shithouse. And Tyson Gamble said, well, listen, we work hard. You know, we work hard to do what we do, whether our names on paper aren't, you know, Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, or Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai. You know, just because their names on paper aren't like those guys doesn't mean they can't work hard and get the results from their hard work, which is exactly what the Knights proved in 2023. So it was actually a really impressive season on behalf of the Knights, because again, like I said, no one thought they were going to be anywhere close to where they ended up, especially after, you know, I had a look here before at the ladder. After 20 rounds, or after 19 rounds, sorry, they were in 14th position. They'd won 6 games with 9 losses and had a points differential of 26, which was actually the beneficial thing here for the Newcastle Knights, because at that point, they were the only team in the bottom 8, besides the Cowboys, sorry, who had plus 38 this time, but the Knights were one of only 2 teams that had a plus points differential in 26, whilst the teams above them, the Roosters minus 92, who had a good end of season stretch, the Dolphins minus 81, the Titans minus 33, and the Manly Seagulls minus 24, before 9th place was the Cowboys at plus 38. So at this point, don't even think about the teams below them, and Bulldogs, Dragons, and Tigers with their points differential. But the Knights were a team that no one thought at that point of the season was going to be even remotely a chance to be pushing into the top 8. But by the end of the season, obviously they finished in 5th place. They went from having, so what was it? So this will tell us how many games in a row they won. So the Knights won 6 games up until that point. And then after that, I'm pretty certain it's when they went on their stretch, and they ended up on 14. So 9 games in a row, because they then went on to beat the Raiders the week after in extra time in Newcastle. And it was really hyped. That was one of probably the most hyped games of the season. It was a great game. It went down to the wire. It went into extra time. And that Dom Young try down the wing, or that try, where I think it was Dom Young who scored it. I know he had it. I don't know if he passed it or he scored. I'm pretty certain he scored because he's got the pace. But that was just the most hyped try nearly of the season, right? So it was really, really impressive that they were able to go up and join that nearly top 4. You know, they were only 3 points away from finishing in the top 4 with the Warriors and the Storm on 38-38, and they had a better points differential than the Warriors and the Storm, and were actually quite close to the Broncos. Now, I do want to kind of rein it in a little bit as well, though, and say that points differential was massively enhanced by a 66-0 flogging of the Bulldogs, and obviously, you know, the Bulldogs, for a majority of teams this year, they were pretty much the easy beats. They had the worst points differential by quite a long way, actually. By 41 on the Tigers, but the Bulldogs finished 15th. Tigers finished in 17th with minus 290. The Bulldogs minus 331. The team below them, the Dragons, actually had a better points differential of minus 199 by 132 points. Right, so that tells you all you need to know about that. But that Bulldogs 66-0 victory for the Knights is what really enhanced their points differential. So, yeah, you got to kind of keep that in mind. However, it still happened, right? So, who cares? You know, who cares who it's against? As long as you have it, bang, bang, thanks for coming. The point of this video isn't to talk about, you know, the specialties of last season. That's just a bit of a, you know, precursor to what I'm about to say. It's more about, do I think they can do it again in 2024? Do I think that was a bit of a one-off surprise packet? Because a lot of the time you can see these teams that no one expects, like, for example, the Warriors of last year, the Cowboys the year before that, you know, even people kind of expected the Broncos to improve, but like those teams, right, where they were predicted quite low, and then just absolutely exploded. And the Knights don't get as much credit as the Warriors for last season, from going from how far they went down to up. And same with the Broncos. Obviously, they were, 9th, 10th place, and then came back up after their choke in 2022. So the Knights don't actually get as much credit, but I think that's also because of the location. Newcastle fans live, breed, love this team. They love where they're from. They love the team that represents them. But I don't think that there is enough noise outside of Newcastle that kind of can really fortify that credit that they deserve. And you know what the craziest thing about last year as well, just before I move into the next part, is that Adam O'Brien was going to get sacked. Adam O'Brien was this close to being like, okay, well, he's gone. And then obviously they turned it around here. Now, I will put out there just quickly, I still don't rate Adam O'Brien that greatly as a coach just yet. I think he needs to be consistent with what he did last season and what they did at the back end of the year. I think that you'd need to see them, finishing in the top 8 this year for us to really kind of believe in what Adam O'Brien, is as a coach. Because based off of the history, although they've kind of been slightly competitive and whatnot in recent years, not really, but like they made the 8 in 2021, but that was with like a minus 80, minus 100 points differential, right? So their defense does still need to be kind of fixed up a little bit. But, they had a better defense than most teams last year, to be completely fair. But that's not the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that last year could be an outlier. So we need to kind of have a think about if they can continue it with the predicted lineup, right? And with Adam O'Brien's coach, who has not proven it yet. He has not proven it yet. I know Knights fans, you might not like that, but he has not proven it yet. Just like Tony Payton at the Cowboys hasn't proven anything really yet. Andrew Webster at the Warriors, I had the same concern, has not proven it yet. Right, we need to see consistency first before we really outline, put all our cards right in front of us and say, hey, listen, this is the big trump card. I don't think that's Adam O'Brien just yet. I still have him on the kind of lower end, but, last year was phenomenal. Now, we go into predicted round one team here. You got Callum Ponga, electric in fullback, obviously, for 2024. Won the Dally M. Look, Warriors fans might not like it, but with that being said, Callum Ponga was incredible towards that back end. That really did, massively bank those points. So that's an incredible fullback they've got. On the wings, they brought Tommy Jenkins, I think, from the Panthers, and Gregory Marzio on the wing. They lose Dom Young, which is a big loss, man. Really big loss. Not a massive fan of Tommy Jenkins, but with that being said, hopefully he can get some good ball and hopefully he can provide something. Just has to be that hard worker. Like Tyson Gamble said, it has to be a hard worker, regardless of his name on paper. Hopefully he can turn it into, Dom Young production. But you don't get Dom Young every, 2 seconds, right? You don't get a player of that caliber all the time. So you have to work with what you've got, and Tom Jenkins is what they've got. And I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying I haven't seen enough out of him just yet. And there's a big drop-off from Dom Young. You got the centers, Dane Gagai and Bradman Best. On paper, fantastic centre pairing there. Bradman Best had his best season in 2023 towards the back end after his Bali trip. And Dane Gagai still holds his own. He's not our origin Gagai, as we all know, but he still holds his own there in the centre department. Is getting on in age now. Actually, how old is Dane Gagai now? Probably maybe 31, maybe? I'll take a guess at 33. Okay, even more. 33, I was trying to give him a bit more credit. Gee whiz. But yeah, Dane Gagai, 33 years old. Could see some regression out of him this year. I don't think you'll see any regression out of Bradman Best because he's still quite young. I'll say maybe like a 24. Honestly, I have no idea, to be completely honest with you. Bradman Best is 22, even younger, right? So I got Gagai too young, and I got Bradman Best too old. So that's a benefit there for Bradman Best. Obviously, still so young, and we saw what he did at Origin level, and I don't think we'll see any regression out of him. Yeah, so I think that backline's fine. I do think there are some concerns. Dane Gagai, potentially regression. Bradman Best, potentially getting better. Tom Jenkins, still don't really know yet. Callum Ponga, love that. And Gregory Marzio on the wing as well. Love that, right? So that's a fine back 1 through 5. So they can definitely score points still. They can definitely still score points. I wouldn't really worry too much about that. Just that 3 and 2 of Tommy Jenkins and Gagai that does still have those question marks around them. You go into the halves, Tyson Gamble and Jackson Hastings, 6 and 7. Again, you look at that, you go, it's not that great. But they worked hard last year. They got the job done to an extent and really did kind of fortify what Newcastle represents. So love that, but the concern is that there's a reason why their name on paper doesn't really resound, right? That did happen towards the back end and it did really well, but on paper, there's a reason why that is the case. So there is that chance that it doesn't work out this year and you do get a lot of lacking production in that department because it's not a surprise anymore. There's no surprise factor here with Newcastle. Teams will be like, okay, they're actually a pretty nifty team. They actually know what they're doing this year. Last year, they could have been considered as the easy beats up until round 19 or so. this year they're not going to be considered the easy beats with the fact that what they did last year. So there is that chance of regression there in those halves. There is that chance that on paper does actually kind of show on the field. But that's a 50-50. That's a 50-50. Knights fans, you're inclined to look at the positives there. Everybody else is inclined to kind of question mark that, right? But that doesn't mean I'm saying they're going to be bad. It's just a question mark. You got the front row, Leo Thompson, Daniel Saifidi. Love this front row. Saifidi, experienced, knows what he's doing. Great player. Leo Thompson really exploded last year. Thought he was unbelievable when I was doing the live streams for the games. Love Leo Thompson, man. So I think that's a really, really solid front row pairing. Jaden Brayley, question mark on the hooker department. Jaden Brayley obviously comes in. Phoenix Crossland did fantastic, was awful, realistically, up until last year, and then last year really exploded, and I really enjoyed watching Phoenix Crossland kind of piece together this team. But Jaden Brayley, coming off a serious injury, question mark there, was really quality when he was playing and fit and healthy. So you just got to hope that injury doesn't kind of, go into what he's going to provide this season. Hopefully that he is past that injury. He trusts his body. I can't even remember what injury it was, but it was a long-term injury, so it could have been like an ACL or an Achilles. But I'm not going to say. Actually, I'll quickly do that just so I can, peace of mind really. Jaden Brayley injury. What was it? It was ACL. Yeah, it was a ruptured ACL and a torn meniscus. So that's a hard one to come back from. It's a hard one to come back from, but we've seen it before. We have seen it before with players. So very large question mark there. But at least you've got Crossland on the bench there. But we'll get to him. Back rowers, Tyson Frizzell and Dylan Lucas. Really thinking Dylan Lucas could be a new big thing. I think he is going to really come into his own this year. We speak about this with the second rowers team maker with Rando that'll come out in the next couple of weeks. And Tyson Frizzell, same as Daniel Saifidi. Love him, knows what he's doing. Origin rep, international rep, he knows what he's doing. And then Adam Elliott, back at the Knights now. Really kind of a solid player. No X factor, but solid player will get the job done. Overall, I think that he does fit this team. So the forward pack from 8 through 13, for the most part, I love their front rowers and I love their back rowers. I'm not convinced on Adam Elliott in the 13. I'm not convinced just yet on Jaden Brayley until he comes back from his injury just yet. But overall, that 8 through 13 is actually probably more exciting for me than the 1 through 7, which was the most exciting part of 2023. So that's a positive sign there. They're going to put him into good position through the forwards, and in the back line, it's really going to benefit from those really solid forwards there. I like that. I really do like their forward pack. You go into the bench, the predicted line of Phoenix Crossland 14, Jacob Saifidi, Jack Hetherington, and Jed Cartwright. Not convinced on Jack Hetherington and Jed Cartwright. Do think they're kind of placeholders. Sorry if they're watching this. I'm just saying that I do think that there are other teams that have much more, solid depth there on that bench that do provide a lot more quality personally. Obviously, they're 100 times better players than I would ever be. I definitely can say that for free. But Jed Cartwright didn't really implement himself and cement himself a position at the Rabbitohs over a few years. Did kind of do all right last year off the bench, but not convinced. And Jack Hetherington, not for me. But Jacob Saifidi, solid, obviously got that New South Wales rep as well. And Crossland had a fantastic year. But that was that one-off kind of year. So we need to see it again before we can really go balls to the wall and say, bingo, this guy's going to be big time. They actually have brought in a couple of players as well. Jack Cogger. They brought in Kai Pearce-Paul from England. That'll be very interesting to watch there. And Will Price. And obviously Tom Jenkins and Jed Cartwright, as we've mentioned. Again, now, guys, that's the predicted lineup right now. So that's not guaranteed the lineup. But based off what we've got to cover, that's what I'll go off. But I really, really do find it interesting what Kai Pearce-Paul could provide. I don't watch much Super League where he was at the Wigan Warriors, but I did watch, obviously, the World Cup with you guys, and, I thought he did really well for England, even though they did throw it away against Samoa in that semi-final at home. So, yeah, look, I think the ins do benefit their teim. I think the outs of Dom Young, Lachlan Fitzgibbon, Manu Brown, Kurt Mann, don't really mind Mann, Brown, and Fitzgibbon overall. I think they've got the depth to cover there. Maybe Fitzgibbon's a bit of a rough one overall, but it's nothing too significant. But Dom Young is a big loss there in the attacking department. That really should be a concern there, that they will lose that attacking production on that edge. So you go through their draw here. And this will be the last thing I kind of speak about before I do give you kind of my prediction. Not going to say where, because I want to watch the preseason stuff first. You guys know I don't put my preview out until the week of. But they play the Raiders. They should expect to win that one. Cowboys in round 2 definitely could win that one. It's in Townsville, though. Storm, Warriors, and Dragons. The opening 5 rounds there is a bit of a mixed bag. Warriors in New Zealand, tough. Dependent on if they can kind of correlate last year's season to this year's season. Storm at home, definitely think that they are beatable. The Storm, their spine, fantastic. But outside of that, a lot to be desired. The Cowboys, we don't know jack about the Cowboys this year, really. Like, are they 2022? Are they 2023? You'd be more inclined to kind of lean with 2023. Obviously, you don't know, but maybe they have a point to prove. I'm not sure, but there are a lot of concerns with the Cowboys this year. And then the Raiders, they should be, you'd expect them to be quite awful this year. They just don't really have that attack going forward, which will be a struggle. So their first 5 rounds is definitely winnable for the most part, absolutely. And then, like I said, round 5 Dragons, like that should definitely be a win there for any team, playing the Dragons. I'll be superbly disappointed if the Titans lose round 1 to the Dragons, and that's obviously, you guys know I'm a Titans fan. So yeah, that first 5 rounds is definitely doable, and they should be quite happy with that. And then their last 5 rounds here, the last game of the season, we'll go from their 5. So they play the Tigers, very winnable. They play the Sharkies, winnable. They play the Rabbitohs, tough, very, very tough. Sharks are also very, very tough. They play the Titans at home. As a non-biased Titans fan in this situation, the Knights usually absolutely whoop the Titans at McDonald's Jones Stadium, but at Seabus, the Titans whoop the Knights. The Titans don't seem to get a lot of games against the Knights at Seabus recently, besides, 2 years ago we had them there, but last year and this year we don't play the Knights at Seabus, so it's kind of a free win there for the Knights every year. But it's a free win for the Titans when the Knights play at Seabus. It's a weird stat, man, but it always happens. So you can kind of probably count that as a win there, Knights fans. I'll be down there, so I'll see you there. And then you've got the Dolphins. But then again, Desi's here. Don't you worry. Desi's going to change his team around. And then the Knights play the Dolphins in the last round of the season, which is definitely winnable. So, overall, the key parts of their season, the beginning and the end, where everyone's looking at them and everyone's got their eyes on them, they've got a pretty good sketch. A really solid schedule there in the first 5 and the back 5. So, it's a really tough one here with the Knights. My opinion going into 2024... I don't think that... A lot of people think they're going to drop off. I don't necessarily think they're going to drop off to a team that, is not good. I think there is the potential they could still finish the bottom 4, but I'm not going to predict that by any means. No, I don't think that they're a bottom 4 team with the way that they play, but the concern does come from the fact that they have shown the surprise factor already. They put their cards on the table. Now no one's going to be surprised by them. So, I don't see them as high as 5th. I do think they'll compete for the 8 for sure. I think that they could finish, probably for me, anywhere between 6th if they go to that same level from last year, and honestly, not last. They wouldn't be last. I'd say anywhere between 6th and 15th is a shout. I would be more inclined to say the higher version though, like around that 10, 11, 9, 8 kind of range, because there's a lot of teams that'll be in that range this year, personally. You've got the Knights that'll be there. You've probably got the Warriors that'll drop down to a similar place with the Knights. You could see the Storm dropping down to a similar place with the Knights down there. Obviously, the Roosters will be there. They're predicted up higher, but there's concerns with them. You'd see the Raiders drop off. Rabbitohs should be higher. Eels should be higher. Cowboys, don't know. Manly should be higher. Dolphins, I think they drop. Titans should be higher with Desi Hasler coming in. They've got a good team list there, but it doesn't usually work out in the Gold Coast. But we'll see. I'm really excited about this season. Don't think much of the Dragons, Tigers, or Bulldogs really kind of pushing through it. I know people say the Bulldogs top 8, but I'm not on that wagon. There are teams that will go up, and there are teams that are above them that will go down and compete with them in that spot. So it's going to be interesting. I'd probably be more inclined to say, that 7 through 10 range is what the Knights should be achieving this year. As high as 6th, as low as 15th, but I'd be more inclined to say they're still a competitive team with the way that they do play their football. But if they finish anywhere below 10th, Adam O'Brien should have his question marks brought up again, because that back end of the year was great, but the Knights overall have not had that much success under him besides that real back end stretch, which they did come a gutser when they went over to New Zealand and played the Warriors and got flogged over there at Mount Smart. So, really interesting situation with the Knights this year. Looking forward to it. I'm actually excited to see what the Knights can bring. And really excited to see that English talent, Will Price, Kai Pearce-Paul, maybe get a crack. Will Price, but Pearce-Paul definitely should. It'll be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to it. But that's my little preview there for the Knights there, guys. Well, my thoughts on their season coming up. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button. Like the video, guys. I appreciate you as always. Subscribe if you're new around here. We've been daily, every day so far in January, and we're pumping along, baby. This is the off-season. Daily. God help us when the season comes on. Gee whiz, members, you'll start to get a lot more content, because there'll be so much content they want to film that I'll have to put it on the members side. So, it's going to be a good, fun season, guys. Like I said, thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. See ya!